Okay, so this is 9K versus a 4K. This is a little bit outmatched. So black, without some sort of reverse Comey or something, black should almost always lose this. This is a big gap. How do I see the result? 19 and a half points. I'm assuming for white. Yeah. Um, so I would say the fact that black kept this within 20 points when there's a 5 rank difference should be a success for black. So just looking at the result, when you have a difference of this large, your goal is honestly not to win. It's just to do really as best you can. If there's no handicap and stuff, yeah, in the game, try to win. But if there's a 20 point gap or less with a 5 rank difference, I'd be pretty happy with that. If I'm 20 points from a pro, I'm pretty happy with that. So um, I want to stress because I've been seeing a lot of this recently in teaching and stuff that a lot of players think that just because they lose, it's a bad result. And I want to stress this. The result is okay if it's close. And at 9Q or so, 20 points is actually close. Like, that's almost just Yosei. A strong player can gain about 20 points against this level, and just Yosei alone. So 20 points is considered close at this level. And anytime that you look at your profile, so I'll just look at one of their profiles, right? Doesn't matter. Anytime that you look at this, when I go down here and I look at my students' games, a lot of students be like, "Oh, I have a losing streak." Like right here, it's it's a losing streak. What I look for is I say, okay, there's one that's like 13 and a half points. I would consider that a win. To me, that's green. But the resignations, I'm like, okay, so let's check the ranks. So this is a 4Q. So I just ignore that completely. 8Q and 7Q. Okay, so that's 2 losses and 1 win because resignation is losses. So 2 losses and 1 win. That's almost 50-50. I don't think that's a bad result. Even though there's 4 losses here, in my mind as a teacher, I'm like, okay, it's almost 50-50. It's 2 and 1, right? So it's really important that we do this because I've had a lot of students stress themselves out thinking they're doing terribly. But in Go, in order to improve, you're supposed to lose more than you win. And that is the best way to improve. Go is really hard. And these people that you're playing are also humans. They want to win just as much as you do. So I want to say that likely I would consider this if I was black, a 9Q facing 4Q, it's a 20 points. I would consider that a win. And I want to stress that. Keep up with your Go psychology because if you let yourself, you will just attack yourself way too much. And then it'll stress you out and then it'll just slow down your improvement.
Yeah, I kind of agree. It's very demotivating, like if you don't have the right perspective on it.
Mm-hmm. You got to be very careful with that. I've seen so many people get mental blocks and then do bad moves to try to do extra to overcompensate to get past that rank. There's like a lot of barriers in Go, right? And half of the barriers, or more than half the barriers, are mental blocks. In other words, maybe you're missing one fundamental, you get on a losing streak, and then you stress yourself out, you overcompensate, and then you give yourself more and more bad habits, and then you get stuck there for like years. And it's very, very scary and very dangerous. And having the right mindset is more than half the battle to break through any barrier. And I think 9Q, I think there's barriers at 15Q, like 9Q, 5Q, and then the 3Q to 1Q. I think there's like 1 or 2 barriers there. It's a really big gap between 3Q and 1 Dan. There's a couple barriers there. But with the right mindset and good discipline, it's just a matter of time to break through them. It just takes longer than other ranks. Okay, so this is Sanrensei. This is the old Sanrensei pattern. So boop, boop, boop. So this is almost always what I expect when I see it at like this level, is I expect this Joseki. Modern in modern stuff, I have seen this one, and I honestly need to research this one more myself. But basically here, I expect A, B, or if you've read some certain Go books, you might see C or D. Like directional play or something like that. So these are the 4 responses I would expect. I recommend A or B, but make sure you're doing your research on your opening. So I'll go ahead and post a link in chat because I think it's okay to share links, right? So this is Wall Theory. This is a free
Absolutely.
database. So what I like to do, when I tell my students to study, I tell them to pick an opening, play that opening for the month. Okay, and change your opening every month. Like, don't only play the same opening for an entire year, but don't change your opening every single game. You need to like learn it and learn Josekis that come about. So let's just play out this. Let's just play out the Sanrense. Okay. So using this database, I can actually find what the most common moves are. And one is 48% of the time, two is 18% of the time, and then three, which is just playing somewhere else, or just playing here, is 14% of the time. So in other words, this is the 15, so I have to scroll all the way down here. This is played 0.1% of the time. So probably you don't want to play this one, right? We could just from professionals researching this game, probably putting in way more hours than we do looking at it, we can say that likely, just from this data, this is not one worth studying. Because we're not professionals. We can't put in like 10 years of our life into studying this stuff. So we need to like have like some sort of cheat sheet, right? We need like a shortcut. So we take what we let the pros do the hard work, and we say, okay, pros, which ones are the ones that I should actually learn? So I'd say 1, 2, maybe 3, 4, maybe 5 and 6. And then if I get a book and it's like, oh, you should try the cap, then I'll come in here. It's like, okay, cap. Let's see what the pros have done. Like maybe I'll see cap from direction of play or whatever. So I'll come in here, I'll research it, look for 1 and 2. It's like, okay, those are the ones that I should expect. Okay, I'll do that. And then let's say my opponent plays something completely that's not in the database, right? Well, guess what? We have AIs. We can say, okay, AI, give me like a couple options to consider, and then find an option that works with what you would expect, right? And then AI can give you some recommendations as well. So we can literally research our openings. So between that, like AI Sensei, the OGS has a review feature now with the AIs. The opening should be almost perfect theoretically because you can just look it up. It's easier said than done, and it does take a lot of study time and a lot of hours. But that's why I tell my students play the same opening for a month. Anytime something comes up that you don't know in the opening, look it up and ask someone, research it, because the opening, whoever researches and puts more study into the opening outside of the game is going to give themselves an easier middle game. Okay. If we're not going to Atari, I think at this level it's time to learn this one. But for double digit Qs, I usually recommend this one. It's just simple, easy, and then like you can make a 2-space, but in this case you already have a star point, so just leave. I don't know why, but for my double digit Q students, every time I tell them to do the actual Joseki, something always goes wrong for somebody. I don't know why, but for double digit Qs, I always recommend this one. But at single digit Q, it's time to learn this one. You just need to know it.
I think you gotta follow up with good reading, and digit Qs just don't have the reading.
I think so too, but I also think it's a lack of research. I think they remember an idea of the pattern and don't actually fully remember the whole sequence. Um, I've seen some weird crap like this and stuff. I don't even know. Like I've seen some really weird stuff. So that's why I'm like at double digit Q, just do this. It's simple, easy to remember. But at single digit Q, it's time to learn your Josekis and you need to study them. Yeah, so at single digit Q, I think it's just you got to know this. So I would say so far, I could say for black, yeah, it's time to study some Josekis. Okay. No. Well, this one's what it was common a while back. I can't say this one's bad. I just don't fully understand it, but I think it's maybe modern, so it's okay. Just make sure you're researching this stuff. Like if you're not playing the normal 5-space extension or Joseki, then I hope that you have researched it because this is technically invadable.
Yeah, I don't like the J4 because it's too close. It's just like too close to your 2 stones on F.
I don't like it either, but I think there's some people beyond me that say it's playable for some reasons. I don't know if it has to do with the star pointers or not. Like I said, I can't say with certainty that it's a bad move because I'm just not strong enough. I haven't researched it. But I don't personally play it. But what I can say here is if you're going to play this one, this is not a basic move. Basic says make a base. Like here, here, here. Or we can do this combination with the star point here. So even this one's not basic, right? This one you can't play without research. If you don't know all of this stuff, you can't play it. It's it's just beyond you. Like you can't say I'm going to play a common move and then not research it, and then expect your opponents to not have researched it either, because this is something that comes up often enough. It's a position that repeats. If you don't know it and your opponent does, you can't get a good result. It just we don't have the reading for it at this level. It's basically making the game way too hard on yourself. So if I was to say I don't know anything to do here, I would make a base. At the very minimum, I would just make a base. Okay. Next up, maybe I update my Josekis. Next up, I update my Fusekis by researching. And then if you go here, that's fine. If you've researched it and you know this, it's fine. But it's not something I would do. It's not my style. This feels strange with the star point. But I don't know what else to do. Maybe to Bahane. I don't know. This one's just beyond me. So, normally you want one more. 4 in a row, you can Tanuki. The reason is, at 2 in a row, if you Tanuki, you can get double Hane. There's Liberty problems. But it's the same at 3 in a row. And I guess this one's less common, but even at 3 in a row, there's Liberty problems. So imagine like I wanted to get out here or something. What if I like cut right here and you try, or maybe try to do this at some point, and maybe try to get this cut and force you to play out here, and then use this Aji. You never know. So maybe I can like activate some sort of cutting point in the future. There's just a lot of Aji here. I can threaten stuff. I can maybe do a double peep to support an invasion. It's just Aji, right? It's just potential. So normally we don't leave that. Normally 3-on-3 we don't leave. But if white doesn't do anything to you, so it might be fine because Tanukis are big. But normally this is not. Normally you want at least 4 in a row. All right, so we are playing the top side. So at this point, I would say it's definitely middle game because there's an enclosure on this side, on that side. There's extensions everywhere. So I would say if I'm going to play anywhere, it's going to be 3-3 because AI, or build my framework. Who has the largest framework? Definitely Black. Black has the largest framework. So we can build it up. We can shoulder hit to build it up and reduce at the same time. And you just make it bigger. If you have the biggest framework, make it bigger until your opponent does something about it.
How about S8?
S8. This has the same problems as the Tanuki. There's still a lot of Aji right here.
So it's definitely not big enough.
If I'm going to respawn locally, it's going to be here. Otherwise, I wouldn't respawn. If I wouldn't go anywhere else over here, I would just Nobi.
I see.
If this Hane was Sente, it would make more sense because it's like I'm getting support, even though I have a little bit more. I still have a little bit of Aji. I'm giving myself more stones to work with, and for free. But it's not Sente; it's Gote. So there's the clamp here. There's a cut. There's a cut here.
Yeah, I see. It's just too many weaknesses. Yeah.
It's just if you're gonna respond, why respond with a shape that has Aji?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is so fine. This is strange, but okay. So white is clearly putting emphasis on the left. So I'm expecting something over here, or maybe if he wants to do that over here, but I'm expecting something to build the left. Okay, this doesn't make any sense. The reason is, let's clarify why. Let's talk about how I'm arriving at this process. If I play right here, I'm trying to cut, right? And then I block and my opponent goes there. Normally, when you try to cut, you cut, right? And it damages F17, and it's fine. Black gets surrounded in the corner. Black stole the corner, though, so it's fine. But if I'm playing over here, it means I'm not going to cut you. I'm going to let you connect because I'm putting more emphasis on this side. I don't really think it doesn't really make sense because you got a full surround here, so I don't quite understand it, but let's assume that's the logic. Okay? But then why would our follow-up be an attack on the stone we just let Black connect to? Why would we let F17 get strong and then attack it? So this just doesn't make sense to me. Like the process doesn't make sense. I expected maybe an extension to make a base to build the left, maybe reduce the large framework while building the left, though you don't have a base yet, so it's a little dangerous. But maybe you're trying to get Tanuki to the large framework. which maybe you should just go here. Maybe just do it now and say, hey, I'm going to save this because later, maybe my opponent goes in or something and I don't have a base, and I need to get a base on the top side instead. That would make sense. So if you wanted Tsunuki, that would be possible, maybe. Make a leave it at Mii. But this doesn't really make sense to me. As black, I really want the large framework. That's all I want. Just the large framework. Okay, so a few minutes left on this one. So let's see if there's any. Okay, so black is getting to the main framework. So it looks like in both of the games, I would say this is the big lesson: is understanding these lines, and if it's Moyo versus Moyo like this, which I guess white actually lost the Moyo right here. But if it's Moyo versus Moyo, or even if there's one player with a Moyo, even if it's just black, if you have the largest framework after the opening, just make it bigger. Right? And your opponent has to do something about it eventually. There's literally nothing else that white can make that's bigger than this. So white has to deal with it. So just you control the game if you do that. So in my teaching approach, I have the idea of open corner for it's my weakness, my opponent's weakness, big move. For the big move, it's open corners, open sides, largest framework, Yosei. So in the middle game, if you can just focus on largest framework when there's no baseless groups, there's no attack and defense, just focus on the largest frameworks, you'd be surprised how much you can make, or how you're always at the right area, and how many times your opponent will just play something small like this. Just who cares? You want to play another? Like, you want to play it again? I don't care. Keep making it bigger. You have to do something about it eventually, right? If you keep playing small moves, I'm just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. Oh, you want to make your area? I'm just going to get bigger and bigger. You have to go in eventually, right? I think that's a big thing that I'm seeing in these two games. So black, Joseki, white, Moyos, and maybe Joseki up here. Not sure. I want to see if there's any other main points, but I guess we don't have a lot of time. I got 2 more minutes on this game, so let's see if I can find something. Okay, something's wrong here. So let's look at this. How did this happen? So we're blocking. Shoulder hits to block, but you want to kick white out. But okay. We blocked. White tries to go in. All right, so now we have a target to attack, but we also have to defend because we're cut off from our base. So this is a weak group, and this is a weak group. So we're going to defend. We walk up. Okay, perfectly fine. We surround. Okay. So white is actually going here, which is threatening to capture the cutting stone. So white's trying to save these 3 by capturing these 2. That makes sense. And I see. You tried to play just a normal shape. I gotcha. It looks like this one was played too quickly and the cut wasn't checked first. So here, first off, I think this one's better for 2 reasons. This is a 1-point jump that's pre-peeped, and it's a bad shape. So when you're playing defense, let's assume that this was a strong group. You want to play in a way that doesn't get cut. So pushing from behind is usually slow, so usually we want a knights move ahead, right? So in this case, this gets ahead as fast as we can, and there's no cutting point. So we run away as fast as we can without getting cut. That's defense, good defense, running away. But in this case, white's also weak. So if we go here, we actually take a liberty while also running away. So the 2 moves that I would expect is here if we're just running, here if we're running while also counterattacking, because we're taking a liberty. And why is this also good? Because if we just read it 2 more moves, white bumps its own head. So it has a very nice combination with this stone. And this also would save this cut. So there's that. However, if white bumped the head and then did this again, you do have that problem. But perhaps if you really wanted to, you could just sacrifice it and then connect. That's pretty good. You could also just jump and then kill these 4 stones and then maybe give up the side or something. You have many options. You're very flexible here. But this one doesn't take a liberty and also has a cutting point. So technically, this is not good defense. This is only offense, not defense. So this means that if these 3 stones survive somehow, it's going to survive in Sente because we left weakness. So make sure when you're playing defense, you're watching your connections. This one, I guess you just got caught off guard here. That happens. So when that happens, just stay calm and recover. I really don't like this move. This move means you're either playing too fast or not paying attention or something. I understand not noticing this cut because you're focusing on defense. So this is an understandable mistake. But once this happened, you get caught off guard. Oops, crap happens. Stop, reevaluate. Just give it up and block. Crap happens. Mistakes happen, right? Oops. But what you shouldn't do is make the mistake worse. Because this, I think, is very easy to read if you're taking your time. It just doesn't work. So why would you give white an additional stone? So this move tells me that you're playing either too quickly or you're not reading things through or something. It's something with the discipline. Because if I gave this to if I gave this to you normally, you would never play this move. So likely, this mistake isn't a skill mistake; it's a habit mistake. Maybe you're freaking out. Maybe you're rushing. Maybe you got distracted. I don't know, but this is a mental mistake. So yeah. This looks like desperation. Like, oh, I made a mistake. I have to immediately make up for it. That never works. This almost always makes the situation worse. The best thing to do is calm down, stop, and reevaluate. So if we stop, we reevaluate, we have weakness. So just fix it. And this also attacks. Or just fix it. If you don't see that one, if you have problems, just fix it and move on. And then look for a chance to make a comeback later. But if you make a mistake, there's almost never an immediate comeback. There's almost never an immediate answer to fix whatever you did wrong because it's a mistake. So I think this is maybe freaking out a little bit. Yeah, and the situation just gets worse and Black's position just falls apart. Okay. Maybe not. I don't know. So that's it for this game. So lessons, I think, Joseki's, Moyo's, don't forget mistakes, and understanding counterattacking a little bit more. Just defense and counterattacking, understanding cutting points and liberties. Cutting points and liberties. Do not belittle cutting points and liberties. It's the most important thing in middle game.